Adding everyone now. All right. What's up, everyone? This is my first Rule Zero, so bear with me. You guys know where to find me. Linktree's in the chat. Today we have a very special topic, a topic that I'm sure a lot of everyone that's a content creator or a consumer or just the person that's stumbling in for the first time is interested in. It's just the language that we use and how we describe intersexual dynamics and why and how it changes the way we think and how the gynocentric social order is using it to infect and undermine our conversations about the reality of dating in 2024. For the guys that don't know who I am, I'm sure I have a lot of guys that in the chat that don't know who I am yet. I'm nuclearcaudillo, nuke for short. I was a former reactor operator for the United States Navy. I am of Dominican descent, and I am 34 years old. So kind of a little green behind the ears in terms of content creation, but I'll do my best. And I'm joined by several cool guys here: Glenn, Jack, Ryan, John, and Paul. And I think Rollo's coming in soon too. So please, guys, go ahead and introduce yourselves, and we'll get the show rolling. So let's start with Glenn.
Yeah, I'm Glenn Lawrence. I am the Rule Zero heathen Christian. Not really a Christian, apparently. Just found out this past week that
more Christian than the critics.
That supports the red pill and just trying to help guys, level up from a biblical worldview.
All right, sounds good. So Jack, my friend Jack.
Hello, my friend Nuke. How have you been?
Good, man. Nothing has changed for you.
For you. So I'm Jack. I am the host, together with Rob Says from robsays.net, of the show Red Evening. I did some narrating. I've done personal training online and shitpost on Twitter, things like that. So that's what I've been doing Red Evening now for at least
3 years,
3
right?
years. Yeah, at least 3 years. I always want to say 4, but yeah, that's my thing.
Awesome. All right, so guys, me and Jack have a couple shows together. If you guys want to check us out too, we just a lot of banter, but we kind of delve into this weird red pill stuff. I don't know if you guys heard it, whamming.
A lot about those red pill guys.
Yeah,
those red pill guys.
Yeah, those red pill guys. Ryan.
Red pill guys.
Hi, my name's Ryan, and I'm an alcoholic. I've been sober for 8 hours now. I just got my coin. I'm welcome to this testicular cancer meeting. We are men. Men is what we are. That's it for me.
Vasectomy. hashtag vasectomies.
Yeah. I've just found Jesus. He's pretty cool. You guys need to find him and stop fornicating.
Okay. Yeah,
I got
that's
nothing
what we're
else.
here.
Don't tell me what to do.
All right, we got John Fitch. Allegedly, he's fought 2 U.S. presidents and has beat up four homeless people in California. Let us know, John. Who are you?
Yard. Yeah, I used to beat people up for money. It's not off the table completely. So if you got some issues, yeah, I'm mostly a dad. I'm mostly retired. I'm out teaching, helping people because I like it and enjoy it. I've been teaching since I was in the 7th grade. Really, been doing instructionals and teaching wrestling, fighting, whatever I can with the knowledge I have from my personal experiences and the books, lots of the books. But yeah, I'm here to help, and I have fallen into the red pill, those red pill guys around 2018 or so, because I went through a divorce, and that's usually what happens. You get zeroed out and you start looking for answers. As an athlete also, I was always looking for, you're always analyzing behaviors, because why was I successful? Why did I fail? Why did I win this? Why did I lose this? Why is this position work? Why doesn't this position work? Very analytical with those things. And I fell into the red pill, and I used it. I used it like a sword and cut through a lot of bullshit. And
Wait, you're supposed to use the red pill?
yes,
I thought you
I
just
used it. I used
talk
it.
about it. What?
I thought you just read the
Navigate-
books and jerked off.
No, I used it to navigate the world, and now I have an amazing relationship. I've been with this girl for about 3 years.
Wait, I thought red pill guys were all PUAs. What's going
Exactly.
on? What?
You know, so
I
I'm
thought
a
you were supposed
dad,
to. If you don't have a
Okay,
harem, you ain't
girl.
red pill. Like that's what I thought.
and I'm looking to put babies in her.
What?
Whoa.
What about
Whoa.
More
vasectomies?
babies in her.
Yeah, you're supposed to have a vasectomy. What the fuck?
What's
Yeah.
going
So-
on here?
Yeah, I'm making her quit her job so she can help me out in the house and help me with my business a little bit. And yeah, things are great. My kids love her. She loves my kids. Life is good, man. Life is really good. Thank you,
Aw.
Red Pill guys.
No, I thought the red pill was anti-family. I'm so confused.
Wow,
This
it
is so
wow,
this is all
I
new.
know.
Wait a minute, you're not like banging a bunch of chicks? Like you kind of sound like one of those like Christian guys, just maybe without the Christian part.
Yeah.
I just can't believe that
dated-
East Indian guy from halfway around the world told us so many wrong things about us.
Yeah, I can't
Hey.
believe he couldn't get it right.
If they have a
That-
Roman,
that
if they have a Roman statue,
5-year-old
you gotta
alpha
listen.
guy talking about his Lambos.
You know,
All right,
I
Paul.
also drive a 2008 Toyota Tundra. It's got 150,000 miles on it, and it's a
Dude, are you
6-inch
broke
lift,
or something? Are you
flat
broke?
black
What the hell?
matte paint. And I would not trade that thing for a Lambo ever. Maybe Don Johnson's Ferrari in the first season of Miami
Good.
Vice.
What
I
about
saw-
Tacoma?
I saw a video
I
that
can't drive it in
that
the mud. I'm not interested.
I saw a video that the Toyota Tundras have the best engines ever created. This guy drove like 2000, I want to say 3 for like 3 million miles, and then traded it in for the next version up. And then
It's such a good truck. And I got
Yeah.
I got 2008. That was like the first year they made a full size truck. So they did the shit out of it because they wanted to just dominate the market off the bat. It's such a beautiful vehicle.
Dude, I was driving around till recently 2004 Ford F-150, you know, crew cab, right? And it was it. It's all I needed.
Most
You
popular
guys have
car in America.
cars?
Until
some
the
guy
damn
hit-
thing just died. You know,
The European mind cannot comprehend this
No,
conversation.
what the hell? We do everything by
Somebody
sight, you know?
made a post about bench seats. We need to bring back the bench seats to increase the birth rate, whatever. in the US.
I'm all for that. I'm all
And I
for
was
that.
like, hell yeah, I wish my Toyota had a bench seat. And then some guy hit me up. He's like, hey, maybe I should do a Substack article about how to turn your front seat into a bench seat of your car. I was like, yeah. Dude,
Would you
that's-
turn in
Like,
your
my
Tundra
truck
for
actually had
Tacoma?
the bench seat option. Like you could pull down like the middle
why
seat.
would you go smaller, Nuke? Tacomas are smaller. Tundras are bigger, bro. Like if
Yeah,
go big or
I
go
mean,
home, bro.
if I had to get a new truck, I probably would downsize to a Tacoma just
Because
because where
you
gas
could flip-
prices are right now.
You could flip Tacomas easier. Like my friend has a Tacoma and he flipped it on exit, or he was doing off-roady stuff and he flipped it and it was just fine. I guess if the car is smaller, it's easier to like he's constantly sending me
Tacoma's a
videos.
solid. I could use a Tacoma with a nice lift on it.
Yeah, he
Alan
had a
is going to
nice lift on
pivot
his-
in a year to van life.
I don't
He's gonna be
really
one of those hipster people.
I don't really flip cars. I drive them until the fucking wheels fall off, and then I
Yeah.
go buy
did
another one.
that.
Paul,
When I traded
yeah.
in my old car, the guy was like, "What are you looking for this?" I was like, "Whatever you can give me, man." It's like, I'll give you $500 for it." Looked like the brakes weren't even really working. He came in shaking his head. He's like, "What do you want for this thing?" I was like,
Yeah.
"Anything, bro."
Yeah.
Paul, go
want
ahead
you
and
to take it
introduce
off my
yourself.
hand.
before-
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I
So,
didn't mean to step
Once
on
guys
Paul's
start
Yeah,
talking
that's
about
right.
cars, we won't stop.
Well, I was gonna say I
Anyway.
too drive a Toyota Tundra. I got a 2019. It's a pretty slick ride. I'm the host of the Come On Man podcast. I have new episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And I also am slanging some merch, guys. I got all this merch. Look at all this. It's literally I'm a merch factory right now. So
Yeah.
that's what the Red
We're-
Pill's all about. You know,
We're
it's
waiting
about
on the
slanging
Rule
merch.
Zero string. We're waiting on the Rule Zero stringers for the gym. Still waiting
Real
on
quick, before I forget, because
Yeah.
Nuke mentioned it, Nuke and I also host together Post Zero. I completely
Oh,
forgot
yeah.
to mention that. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, it's like Rule Zero's little brother, annoying little brother. So good times on Sunday. All right, so I think everyone's Paul, was that everything?
Yeah, we're
Okay.
good. Let's go.
All right, so 2024, new year, same old shit, right? Nothing has changed. The selection really isn't that important, even though everyone's trying to make it to be their, the future of the country. People that are winning and are winners know that no matter what happens, they have to win, regardless of who's the old man sitting in the chair. But for the record, there is a topic that I've always been interested in, and that's just language and the language we use to describe women, intersexual dynamics, what's going on around us in terms of dating, blah, blah, blah. And as we've seen, and I think one of the most prevalent words is the word partner, where we go from like boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife to partner. And these are Christian people. These are alpha bros. These are whatever. They all of them have used the word partner. Now, in a medical sense, partner makes sense. Like if you go to a clinic to go check for STDs, they ask you, hey, how many sexual partners have you had? Because they can't assume who you're banging is a male or female because it's medical stuff. But in terms of us talking about red pill stuff and like people outsiders talking about dating, everyone starting to use the word partner and other words too, right? So before we start, I came up with a list of words that no longer mean anything. In 2023, they lost all meaning, right? And I'm gonna start with the list, and you guys tell me what you think. So here goes. So it's like 20 words, right? The first word that lost all meaning in the telephone game that was 2023 was red pill. Then we have incel, masculinity, of course, partner, simp, racism, woke, rent-free, pickup artist, game, degenerate, vasectomy, hypergamy, docs, research, conservative, survey, pronouns, content creator, debate, alpha/beta, and I put partner twice on accident, but
studies.
That probably was a Freudian slip. Yeah,
Canceled.
Studies, research, all that.
Like you're really upset about this partner thing. I get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Paul, in fairness, though, what would be a good word? Obviously, getting married now isn't what it used to be.
Spouse?
Like marriage, what does that even mean? Does that mean the institution of marriage, like from a biblical standpoint? Does that mean the church's thing? Does that mean the legal status?
State-sanctioned relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I hate to say it, but partner is almost like
state-sanctioned relationship.
if there was like like how Spanish has like gendered language. Is partner masculine or feminine? Nuke.
Sounds pretty feminine to me.
Let me see, because Spanish, there's no direct translation, so it would be pareja, which is feminine. Yeah.
Feminine. Okay. So we need like an English version of that, like a feminine partner. Partnera. I think that might work.
Yeah, that would probably describe relationships nowadays better. But also, like there's more words. I just, my creativity, I probably forgot. But marriage is a word that doesn't mean anything anymore, because what is marriage? It's just, some people say it's a contract. Some people say it's love and all that. Some people say it's a covenant under God, whatever. It's just like no one knows what marriage is. And I think one of the biggest container words we have now is the word love. And because like women will co-opt that word and say, love is when men do stuff for me for nothing, for nothing. And then guys will say love is when women like me just because I exist, right? And that's what people think love is. It's just I exist, therefore I deserve this emotion from a stranger that just met me, right? So
Nuke.
Yeah.
What is love?
No, we're not.
Don't hurt me. Don't
That's a great song.
Me.
Did you guys see the memes with Mike O'Hearn and
yes,
the bodybuilder, and it's like that song, and it's him like just mewing at the camera. You guys see those memes?
All the
Those
time.
are fucking hilarious.
Yeah, me as a doctor
it's like a theme song
congratulating
now.
the parents their child survived after handing them the $20K bill. It's like,
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
But my thing is, in terms of these words, like, what do you guys think of how language is affecting these conversations? Like, what do you think? Because there is hypotheses that say that language does not affect the way you think at all, right? Linguists will say that. But we have the book 1984 where they have Nino Speaks and all that bullshit. Like, what do you think is going to happen, and how is gynocentrism, affecting how we see relationships? I'll start with Glenn, since we'll give us the Christian angle, Glenn.
Well, okay, so words mean something. Words have definitions, and those definitions mean something. And what we see, even in like the Christosphere, right? Like Ryan mentioned marriage. So marriage is supposed to be a specific way from that worldview. But the way that it's being practiced today, even by Christians, it's not practiced in the to the definition of the biblical understanding of what marriage is. So I've said this before. I don't know how any Christian could be in support of the way that we do marriage now, when in fact it doesn't even uphold to the definition of the biblical understanding of it. So words do mean something, and what we try to do is like we try to just, as long as they're close enough, you know, that's the whole thing. Like partner, yeah, it's not your husband, but it's your partner. You kind of get what they mean, right? No, because a wife is different than a partner. A partner is somebody I'm in business with. You know, it's a quid pro quo. You know, it's a back and forth. There's a mutual, you know, we both are trying to fulfill this, you know, contract here.
Mutual,
a wife is
mutual
something
risk.
Yeah, equal risk.
Mutual risk, mutual investment.
Different. You know, a wife is more important than a girlfriend. You know, a partner is not as important as a wife or a girlfriend.
Yeah.
Are they? I mean, is it harder to ditch your boyfriend if you have a house together than it is to ditch your husband if you have a house together?
Yeah, I think we have to put a container around
like the fact of like meaning wise.
No, that's what I mean. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm wondering though, is like partner almost accurate? Because like, what's the common thing? It's the person who wants to leave the relationship for cash and prizes is encouraged to, while the person who wants to keep it together is discouraged from. Well, and that's why like women are able to leave. They don't have to have a reason. You don't even have to leave a reason. Is marriage actually sacrosanct right now? Like, is it?
Oh, no.
That's the thing. We have to make sure we're looking at marriage through the perspective of the time we're in, because marriage 100 years ago or 1,000 years ago was not the same as it is today. You can't just say, you know, religious marriage. You can't say it and expect people to think the same thing, because that's where people are stuck. They think marriage is the same institution it was 1,000 years ago. It's not. It's changed.
So that's exactly what I'm pointing out. About words. The way that we do it now, the words don't mean the same.
Yeah.
You know, like it's completely different. The way that marriage is done today, or marriage in people, the way they understand it today, is not the way that they understand it back in biblical times. Mm-hmm. There was a lot more, you know, involved in level of commitment, and you know, there was a lot more in there than it is today. Today, it's just a word that everybody could just slap on a bumper sticker.
Yeah, well, that's the thing about marriage, is that everyone's stuck on the old definition of marriage, and we haven't updated it. You know, at least people who don't read and consume this stuff haven't updated it. So, Thor, go ahead and introduce yourself and let us know what you think about language and the gynocentrism.
The language is fucked. How about that?
There we go. That's it. All right, guys, it's been a great show. Let's go. Yeah. Let's get out of here.
They use it to trick you, man, and trap you. I mean, of course. Sorry I'm late, guys. For some reason, I couldn't log into Twitter at all, so I missed that link.
They're after you.
You know, the just below average God amongst men has arrived. Thank you very much.
So give us your thoughts, Thor, on you know, we're like kind of talking about the definition of marriage, because you know this show is kind of centered around words, and you know, words mean things, and how people use words to kind of affect how people think. What do you think? Like I listed off, I don't know if you saw, but I listed off a couple words that lost all meaning in 2023. They don't mean anything anymore. Like no matter how much you use them or try to like use them for your own thing, they don't really mean anything, because everyone has their own definition of it. And one of them right now is marriage. Like what is marriage? What does marriage, if you could define marriage as a sane man today, what would be the definition of marriage?
As a sane man today in today's environment?
Yeah. A sane experienced man such as yourself.
Yeah, you're setting yourself up for heartache. That's for sure. Yeah. In today's realm, it's just a really bad deal for men, straight up. And that's not to discount that good relationships exist. It's just the environment that marriage is now constructed in is very poor outcomes for men, straight across the board.
So would you say it's things? If you could put it in a dictionary, though, like if someone was looking up the definition of marriage in Merriam-Webster dictionary, what would it say if you could write the definition of what marriage is today?
It would say a traditional method of creating a contract for resources and the care of children.
Is it traditional though? Because with no fault divorce starting in the 80s.
Okay, let's say
how
historical.
traditional is it?
Instead of traditional, let's say historical.
There we go. I think that's where people kind of like mess
That
up.
way, it doesn't give you the room to get in there and say my traditions are better. It's a historical method. Yeah.
Yeah, historically known for this. So yeah, I just believe that it's just one of those words. I can't believe I didn't write it in that list, but like it's one of those words that it just marriage doesn't mean anything anymore. At least not within the state. So it's not based on love. It's not. It's an incentivized contract for women to get in and have their safety net.
Yeah.
If you want to talk about language, contracts require consideration. If you guys don't know, consideration is like something has to benefit.
Well,
you.
yeah.
That's why token contracts offer $1. There's no consideration for men in a marriage, so it's not a contract; it's a legal status. I think that's where a lot of the problem is. Guys get this bait and switch, Moat and Bailey, of thinking it as a contract, which means she has to do things and I have to do things. It's not. It's a legal status. Right. So the courts can say you file taxes together, and if you dissolve assets, we have this checklist of things you're required to give out.
Yeah.
Would you say? I mean, it's a legal status, yes, but there is a little bit of a contract in there because there's already a prenup written in that says the person who earns less, who has less wealth, automatically has to give half of their wealth to the other person.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's not the contract part of it. That's the obligations of legal status. Same as like if you move to a different state, you're required to change your driver's license to be the next state or whatever, right? It's just bureaucracy. And that's the problem now. Everybody turned over the idea of marriage. It used to be religious. It used to be about love when, and now it's just a check form on a box. It's a T4.
Yeah, it's a bureaucratic legal status. That's what marriage is today. A bureaucratic legal status. We defined it, guys.
Yeah.
Great job.
Yeah, it's one giant conglomeration of covert contracts now. There you go.
Yeah.
Literally. I mean,
Glenn, as our resident Christianity red pill expert, what would you define it in terms of religious terms now? Like if you could go to the Bible and we're not in a Bible, but go to a dictionary and write your definition of marriage, what would you write? Like the sane man's definition of marriage today.
what it is today.
Yeah, in a dictionary context.
In the retrospect of knowing what it is today compared to what it was.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. A clusterfuck of fuckery.
The religious guy.
Clusterfuck of fuckery, sworn and portrayed to be done in the sight of the Lord, that has been replaced by the state.
All right.
It's just a bunch of bullshit. I mean, I don't think marriage today has any validity to what it once was or what people once thought it was.
Yeah. I believe that any definition but anything based on love is a good definition, because it's no longer based on love. But anyway, it should never have been based on love, period, though. That never was, right?
It never really was.
Yeah, until like what, the 1800s or something like that. About 1% of the history of marriage was based on love.
If marriage was based on love, there wouldn't be shotgun weddings when you knock up a chick in high school.
Yeah, it's based on convenience. It was always based on convenience, but now it's not convenient.
It never should have been based on love. Love's fickle. Yeah. It's kind of a fantasy, because our versions of love is different. It wasn't conflict.
Women didn't start. The modern way of dating didn't start. Women didn't start choosing their spouses and who they dated and had sex with really until the 1920s. Like everything else was your family picked. Your family picked who you courted and dated and were allowed to see and spend time with. So like we've only had 100 years of women choosing who they married, where I'm sure people always fuck. So there was always women having sex with whoever when they could. I'm not going to pretend that wasn't happening.
But that's because it was too important to leave to their emotional whims.
But the idea that it's always been this way, that women have always had a choice in who they married and it's based off of love is not true. It's very recent.
Yeah. Well, again, marriage is one of those words that really don't, because everyone is just filling it in with their own what it should be, but honestly, it's just a contract based on convenience. And
Oh, and such motivated reasoning too. You notice that?
Yeah.
Every 28 to 32-year-old girl, marriage is about marrying me and giving me a baby and doing what I want. And wow, how convenient.
It's
Yeah, it
just
has
a
nothing to do
container
with the
word
man.
now, right? It's
Yeah,
just
it's
container
exactly.
word
That's
for
why.
anybody to define it as they see fit.
See, I would define it just like sort of Ryan describes it, right? It's a bad idea for men, terrible fucking idea for men, but it's not a bad idea for women. You know,
Yeah.
I would even put a
I have
little
a
caveat in there that it's not a bad deal for the person who has less wealth and earns less money.
yeah.
Hmm.
So I have a son and a daughter, and for my son, I tell him like, hey man, it's a bad idea. Like I wouldn't even bother trying to get married, especially not in your 20s or whatever. My daughter, I'm like, no, you should do it. You should do it. It's a great idea. Get your bag, sis. You know.
Yeah.
It
is what it is. Oh,
If
yeah.
I have a daughter, I'm going to tell her marry an old guy young. Be 20 and marry a 35, 45-year-old guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you can pop out a couple kids, you got your kids, and then if he dies or you want to divorce him, like you'll have a bunch of money and your kids already wrapped up, and then you could do whatever you want to with the rest of your life.
The old Anna Nicole Smith.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it.
It's a better strategy. It's pretty smart.
All right,
you don't
time
have to
to-
have student loans. You'll be able to pay cash for any education you want.
I mean, is
All right.
it safe to say the only guys that really benefited, in the long run, has been K-Fed and like, what's her name, Adele's ex-husband?
Oh, what a champ. What a awesome guy.
Wasn't Cernovich? Wasn't that a big thing that people were talking
yeah.
about a long time ago?
The
Cernovich was married to a-
Facebook founder was his ex-wife. That's where he's afforded all of his Cernovich empire from. People forget that when he was screwing troons all day, he was also dating that ex.
That's how he
That
financed his
Zuckerberg
documentary,
cash.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how he financed his documentary, right? I guess. All right, so I want to move on to a little bit more sciencey stuff, and then we'll go back to actually talking sense. So, so we know that women use language to make up for lack of agency. It's part of their shaming tactics, right? So they like to change the word. So now, incel was a thing, red pill was a thing. Now incel and red pill is the same to them. Like, oh, you guys are the incel community, right? I'm like, no, it's actually the absolute opposite of that. There is a hypothesis, and this is by a guy named Benjamin Lee Warf and his mentor Edward Sappier. They're both 20th century linguists, and they came up with the Sappier-Warf hypothesis, which means that language affects the way you think. Modern day linguists say it's not true. It's like whatever. Like it's like get over it. If you say a word, it's not going to change how you think. If you think in a language, it's not going to change the way you think, right? But they say that language is a reflection of the culture, how the culture thinks, which is weird. So it's like putting the cart before the horse, chicken before egg, whatever, blah blah. So we have two types. Yeah, we have two types of ways of thinking in terms of this hypothesis. There's linguistic determinism, and that's the 1984 stuff, like Newspeak. Don't say this because if you do or you don't, you call your dictator by the grand emperor, not asshole. Like in North Korea. So that kind of stuff, which is like more science fiction. Linguists hate that because to them it's science fiction. And you have the more realistic stuff, which is linguistic determinism, meaning that in Spanish, we say our words have genders. In English, words are said differently, whatever, and that kind of is a reflection of how society thinks. And it's like a loop where if you go to, like, I don't know, Mexico, and you start using gender language, you start kind of really separating men and women in terms of like their unignorable differences, right? Which is good. That's why in Latin America you kind of get a feeling that men and women understand each other more. But that's just me thinking, right? Both are popular in science fiction, but I want to ask you guys: do you guys really believe that language affects here in the United States, like English language? You guys think it affects the way we talk about this kind of stuff, or is it just like hosh posh? So we'll start with John and then go back around.
What was that one more time?
Sorry, I went on a long rant there. Do you think that language affects the way people think, or is it just like the other way around?
No, absolutely. I think, I mean, not everybody's exactly the same. I think some people have higher minds, higher IQs, and they're able to look through language and they can tell when they're being manipulated sometimes, and people are trying to manipulate them with language. But some people, yes, 100%. They're like, Pavlov and the dogs. Like, you say certain words and you get certain reactions out of people. People want to fit in the group. They don't want to be outcasted. There's a strong survival instinct around being outcasted. So if you don't agree with what everybody else seems to agree with, I think that's why there's so much control around social media and what's seen and heard in social media, right? There's certain messaging that's just not allowed in social media because they don't want people to think freely. They don't want people to think outside the box. That's why the news presents only two sides of an argument when there could be 50 different ways to deal with a problem. You're only allowed to see two kinds. I think there's a lot of control through language, 100%.
Okay, yeah. So John, in terms of like dating stuff, like, what do you think? Who do you think is the most interested in terms of like changing these definitions of what red pill incel is? Because we have the science bros who are changing the definitions. We have the conservatives. You have the religious people. Like, who do you think benefits
anybody
the
who
most?
can use it to their advantage? Anybody who can mold behavior into their worldview. Well, this is the way I think things should be, and everybody should do it this way, rather than objectively looking at the world and being like, what do I see? What do I observe, regardless of how I feel about it?
Yeah. All right, Ryan, you're a writer. You're an actual writer. You actually use words. You hate writing as of today, as of your last book.
I love writing. I hate my fucking book. That's the difference.
Okay. When you write and when you explain this stuff, I know you take a very kind of like ground zero up to 100 kind of view of your, like you don't say, it's like the draw the out. Well, step one, draw two circles. Step two, draw the out. You kind of walk people through, at least your praxeology book. You kind of walk
this
people...
is actually a perfect explanation of what's going on. So here right now, you know what you're trying to say, but you're kind of like, I feel like you're struggling a little bit to get there, right?
Right.
Okay. Writing and thinking are intertwined, and I can see this examples. I can even tell you guys how to use this. Let's say you're on a date. You went on a date last week, whatever. If I ask you, like, tell me about your date. What'd you learn from it? You're like, I probably learned a bunch, and you can't really say. It's like this. You might hum and haw. You'll skip some details. Writing it down forces you to take your ego out of the equation, because your ego will, like, the part where you fucked up, you'll kind of gloss that over and you'll ignore that. And the part that makes you feel good and made you look good, you'll remember that. And that's just how people work. That's why when we deploy, we remember all the good stuff after a while and we forget all the bad stuff. That's how we keep from going crazy. Language bypasses all that. And this is why I love it. You can see it every week. Have this for any of you guys in the audience. Write down your experience, a fight with your wife, a date with a chick, whatever. Like a field report. And then give it a day or two and read it back again. You're going to notice you're reading it like somebody else wrote it. And then you're going to start to remember details. You're like, hey, that's weird. Why did I forget to mention that? And then it's always the stuff that you don't want to remember that you'll forget. And then that lets you know, as you write, it changes how you think, because now you're thinking about the things that you realize are missing from it. Mm-hmm. If it's hard to see in your own writing, you can see it in other people's writing. Like, how many guys have we seen write this big, long screed about how they're an alpha male and their things are awesome? Or how many times have you watched a news report where the news reporter is giving you a story and there's like basic questions? You're like, why didn't they ask this? That seems obvious. This Chase dude's writing paragraphs. Every tweet of him is this long story about God and red pill bad. And he just keeps writing and writing and writing. And he goes nowhere with the stuff. Sorry to interrupt, Ryan. No, you're absolutely right. And then you look at that and you have some obvious questions. Well, like, does he know about this? Does he know about this? That's what is letting you know. In his case, he's writing this stuff because he feels a certain way, but he doesn't know what he's talking about. That's why he's not hitting any obvious points. So as you write, you start to realize there's things that you're forgetting that you need to include. And then you realize there's a bunch of details that don't matter. So you realize there's this other stuff that I'm thinking about that doesn't matter, and I'm giving it way too much headspace. And so then as you get better with writing, you start to become more succinct. You start to focus on details that matter and ignore details that don't matter. And this is why, like, when you're writing down the date you had or the fight with your wife, you're going to notice those things within yourself. And so the next time you have a situation, you're going to be more cognizant of those mistakes you made and the successes you had. And then when you write it down, you notice you're getting better at this. And so, yeah, absolutely, it affects how you think. And I think it's a great thing, and I wish more people would. And it's why if you ever go watch my old videos, you'll see I kind of stumble through some concepts. Like I know what I want to say, but I don't say it very well. But 3 books in, I can sit here without an or an ah and explain any one of these concepts, and it just comes through writing. So that's my thoughts on it anyway.
It's interesting about writing, especially about this dating stuff, where I talk about it and I lose words. I don't know what to say, but then when I write, it's just the words come to me, like these big words. I'm like, where did I pick that up from? That I know that word means it, but I never use it when I talk. But then when I write, it just I could write for like 20 minutes nonstop, maybe 15. I'm just like, whoa, what happened? And then I look at my writing, I'm like, man, this really messed with me. This story really messed with me, or I'm really hung up on this person, this concept, this girl, this event. And it's just like, oh, you know more about yourself when you write. So a lot of people should write. They shouldn't publish it. Not everyone should publish. Most people shouldn't publish their writing, but they should write.
Get an editor. Get an editor.
Yeah. So I don't know if Thor's here. Thor, are you there?
He might have had to step away.
I had to step away, guys.
Oh, okay. So we'll come back to Thor. Paul, you just wrote a book.
I did write a book, and I'm glad you brought that up because I have yeah.
When you wrote your book, it's more like you're talking to your younger self, right? You're like or to younger guys about how you would have done things differently, what could have helped them, or whatever, the passing on of the torch of knowledge, right? So when you write your stuff, how do you feel it's different, and how do you feel like from speaking, like what I was saying? How do you feel it's different from just speaking it and just tweeting it? Like, how is writing things down in a book or in a long blog post, long form content different?
Well, a lot of the times when you're writing, you're not adding all the ums and ahs and what I means and that kind of shit.
Not what I mean.
But also, I mean, for me, my brain works faster than my mouth, so I know what I'm trying to say, but getting the words out is sometimes difficult. But on paper, I don't have that block. So I think that for me, that's the difference with that.
Hey, you want to let Cappy in?
Oh yeah, we gotta let Cappy in.
Oh, there he is.
And then one
background's
thing
so white, I didn't even notice he was there.
He's a white boy. Yeah, he just blended in. No, but
that's that minimalist background.
Going to what Ryan was saying too, he was saying that in his early days, it was hard for him to verbalize. He knew what he was trying to say, but it was hard for him to verbalize. But a lot of this is repetition, and repetition is the mother of skills. So the more you do this stuff, the easier it is to get it out. So I think there's also a component there.
All right. So Glenn, let us know. Like, same question. You're doing a lot of shows now. You're doing a lot of talking with other guys, other religious people in your corner. The way, do you feel like, let's say the scripture, right, the Bible, do you feel like is that influencing guys on how to think about the red pill, or is it the other way around? Like, is it they read the red pill and they're just like, this language isn't good, I prefer the Bible language? Or how do you reconcile biblical language versus us red pill bros talking about? Both could be true if you have faith, but like, why is it that we say the same exact thing as biblical bros, but they don't like how we say it or what we say it or how we say it?
See, I don't think the issue is with the description of the problem. With a lot of these Theo bros, I find that they actually don't necessarily like beef with the description of the problem. Their issue is with the prescriptions that some people in this space give, right? But when it comes to wording, I mean, I could just, for example, people could read Ephesians 5, from 21 all the way down to 6:10, and they will, or 6:5, they will tell you like, oh yeah, that means mutual submission. Husbands are supposed to mutually submit to their wives, and they'll take it completely out of context. But that's how they interpret it, because those are the words that were there. Not knowing the right words, the words that were actually used in the original text, and what the meaning of those words, that makes everything, a mess. Like the word for submission in there is not some mutual submission in the sense of like, oh, you're both submitting. It's a military term. Like,
why does everyone
top down.
struggle with that word submission? Everyone, like, especially in your corner, everyone struggles
Because
with
of
that
words.
word so much.
Because of
Because of
words.
words, because of what it means, what it actually means. They want to redefine what submission means so it can make them feel better. They don't just
So let me
like the reality of
So
it.
let me ask
It's,
you
a,
this,
it's a
Glenn.
dirty word, just like being a stay-at-home mom. It's a dirty word. You submit. You're weak. You're pathetic. Like, it's language. It's the language that's been going on for at least my whole life, last 40-some years. You're a bad person. You're a weak person. You're a low-level person if you allow those things to happen.
Yeah, I just think it's interesting right now, especially with this sovereign broad grift stuff, that it's like he's saying the same exact things we are. Like, look at what's his name, Dilbert, the writer of Dilbert, the comic writer.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Scott Adams. He went on a trope. Like, he wrote 6 paragraphs about how gynocentrism and like basic female modus operandi, right? And I'm just like, yeah, dude, that's gynocentrism. Like, I took it's normal. We live in it, and we just figured out a way to operate in it, within it. And he's just like, because he has his like lucid moments, and he goes like either super racist or super sexist out of nowhere, and then he goes back to politics.
Well,
or whatever. It's kind of hilarious. It's like
the whole boop boop thing broke him. It broke him mentally.
Was that his ex-wife,
Oh,
the one
yeah,
that was
yeah.
flirting
He-
with Tate
he-
or whatever?
I don't want to say the C word because we are on YouTube, and I don't want to get Nick in trouble here. But you know what I'm talking about? The boop boop that happened in 2020 to 2022, right? That
The
whole
boop,
situation,
boop thing.
Yeah,
that whole
disease
thing
of
broke
unspecified
him.
origin.
right? So he has not been the same. He
Yeah.
was riding high after predicting the Trump election way
Yeah.
back, and he was riding that hard. And he made a hard commitment around that boop boop stuff, and he was completely wrong. And he has been shattered ever since, and he's just in a free fall.
Yeah, when a broken
Yeah.
clock
And then,
decides to ride it till the wheels fall off. Yeah.
But when it comes to a new, like the issue is like as Rolo's mentioned before, we live in a reels or fields before reels, time frame. That's what we're in right now. We're in the fields before reels.
Hold on, Glenn. Let me
And-
let Cappy weigh in.
Yeah,
Hold that
for
thought,
sure.
Glenn. Hey, Cappy. So we were talking about language, blah blah blah, like women, language, fields before reels, like telephone game, like. So you're a resident boomer economist, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
In terms of red pill, red pill and
Speaking of
economics,
boomer
right?
economists, you got
What do you
boomer
see
internet
how
over there.
language
Yeah.
affects
Can you
how
repeat
the
that, Nuke?
like
You-
millennials?
You cut in and out, Nuke. What was it again?
I'm just saying, like, how do you think language affects the way we think about this, like, red pill stuff, this intersexual dynamics?
Well, it's the
And,
language is no
they're trying to
different-
change the language
yeah.
too.
Right. The language is no different than the computer language that operates the computer, and so it's the granular atomic level that we all communicate and operate and think even by. And the only thought that I would have had, and hopefully no one else contributed, I'm not repeating what somebody else said. Men want to get laid, and you guys will grant women's womanese, as Donovan Sharp even has a course on it. You'll grant that intrinsic value or validity by indulging them in it. Where women will use, you could tell when someone uses a word intellectually dishonestly or like in a two-faced manner. And guys just like, yeah, sure, yeah, I agree. Like the word feminism, it's just about the equal treatment of the sexes. The fuck it is now. But you're not, if you want to get your dick inside her, you're not going to hold it here now, technically, actually. And when you expand beyond men's sexual interest in women, society, different institutions have different interest in women. Well, they just indulge them. The media wants them to buy clothes. Or not just clothes. I want to buy everything. So, you're empowered. Like, there's a perfect example. I still don't know what empowered means. I really don't. Strong and independent. Well, fuck. The strong independent women I know, if you use the actual word, are traditionally conservative, libertarian, Republican type of chicks who have real jobs and support themselves, not ranked leftists whose entire life philosophy is parasitism and being bailed out. But there's money to be had in indulging women and abusing the language and giving them kind of perception of themselves, of maybe even grandiosity. And so you look at men's sexual interest in women, corporations' financial interest in women, the Democrat Party, leftist parties in general, they have a political interest in women. Oh, yeah, you're all victims. But even though they just said you're strong and empowered, you're also all victims. And everyone will indulge these people. And it's not just women. I mean, propaganda has been out there a long time. So there's other institutions that would like to profit off of men as well. But as it pertains to the topic today, yeah, it's because they want to get something out of women, and everyone indulges. Like they just, okay, yeah, sweetheart, you're a strong independent, and you identify as an attack helicopter. Just as long as you pay $300 credit for tuition
and Apache, you gotta be specific. Apache.
Well,
Apache.
yeah, and you come. Oh yeah, you're a girl boss. As long as you're slaving away for 80 hours a week and you get your MBA, that's you. So I think that's largely what's happening here. Where people, if someone, you know, it's kind of how I got my business off the ground. I tell people the straight facts. I don't lie. But until someone comes and says, no, you're a fat, ugly bitch who's indebted in student loan debt for a worthless degree and no one wants to date you because you're a single mom, until we start cracking down like that, the indulgence is going to continue and nothing's going to change.
Yeah. Glenn, what you were saying, your point, if you remember, before? You were saying feels before reals, something.
Well, it's like, yeah, that's what we're in right now. So when people are reading like text, like stuff like the Bible, they don't like the way it sounds. I mean, the way that it makes they read it and they hear what the words are. They don't like the way it makes them feel. So they have to find a way to rephrase it in a way that makes them, you know, able to accept it. You know,
policing the language.
Yeah. And you get that. Like even Rollo wrote about this, you know, in his blog post. What was it called? Remove the Man. It was talking about how they were changing, you know, just language or taking out masculine language or terms like fireman to fire person, congressman to congressperson. Like they've been trying to, you know, do this whole language thing for a while now.
I look at Latinx. I literally hate that word. I want to throw up every time I hear it.
Why do you hate
I feel Latinx is a different type of Mexican, you know. So
what my thing is too is just like in terms of like when we engage, like a lot of us do interviews with people outside of the space, and when we engage, it's always the same thing. Like I was on Cognitive Vigilance the other night, and the guy Rin and Brandy did not like the word dread, you know. And I'm sure I saw your show with them, Ryan, and you and me said the same thing. These words have to like have weight to them so guys can see this and catch their attention, right? Because we're helping
if you liked
guys.
It, we wouldn't use it. That's the why
exactly.
It's there.
Yeah, if it was a scientific term, it would be boring. If it was a happy term, men would be like, "Oh, this sounds kind of gay or something." But if we use dread, you know, it's like, "Oh shit, like this means business. Like this must be important, right?" And then like when we interface with people outside of the space, their biggest complaint about the red pill is the language we use, right? And we say, hey,
what
like,
you're saying, but I don't like how you said it.
Exactly. Like sometimes they agree. It's like, can you just not use slut? Can you use promiscuous women instead? And I was like,
no, you have to. That's what I love about this stuff, though, man. It's like they act like we've never had this conversation before, and we've never tried it. The men's rights advocates tried that. They tried toning down the language, and then chicks joined.
Looking in from the outside, I have an example, right? Anybody who has done jujitsu, right? Anybody who's gone into jujitsu, put on the gi, put on the white belt, and been there long enough, maybe 2 years to get to their blue belt. You have some basic understanding of fighting and hand-to-hand combat. Just a minuscule, because a blue belt's just, you know, barely over retarded. Okay. White belts are made fun of so much because you start to realize how stupid a white belt is, because they know nothing. They know nothing about what's going on. Why do you do that? Well, how come this happens? Well, what this is? And you want to shake your head. You want to choke them because they're so stupid, right? 99% of these people saying stuff have never even gone in to put on the white belt. Right? They're not even capable of being stupid. They're
Yeah.
below stupid. They're below white belt. They are a no belt, right? And it's the same thing. People who have absolutely zero experience with hand-to-hand combat, with zero experience with fighting or jiu-jitsu, always want to spout off and be like, well, I would just stand up in that position. And everybody who has some medium level of understanding, a one-stripe white belt would put his full face palm and be like, oh my God, this guy's an idiot.
He's gonna get hit. He's gonna get jacked.
There's actually a term for this. It's called wronger than wrong. Where they
Oh, yeah.
no, it's like because you could be wrong about something, you could be right, but you could be so bad at it that you can't even frame it properly to be wrong or right. That's what most of these people are.
Kind of related to that. How much of it the no belt doesn't even have the context to understand? I'm wondering how much of it is society, but in this particular case, women have been brought up in a society where they're not even capable of understanding the language because they've never accepted an insult. Any constructive criticism is viewed as an insult, even if it's intended to help them. Like you're literally almost talking two languages because no one sat them down. Their dads didn't say, hey, this is how it works. Almost from the time they're verbal, they're kind of coddled, they're shielded, and oh no, that's impolite, girls and spice and everything nice, that kind of thing. So even if you were to be empirical, if you were to be constructive, you were to speak facts, they may not even be able by a certain time to even comprehend or be able to receive, because that's what usually they say, oh, that's mean. It's like, no, that's constructive criticism. Like you need to stop doing this. This is bad behavior. Because I don't see, unless their lives are threatened, there is no change. There is no acceptance of anything that they don't want to hear, unless there's an emergency and a crisis and an actual threat now coming upon them. But since society will always bail them out in terms of feelings, as we're talking about language, I'd imagine by the time you're a 35-year-old gal who's had, oh no, you just know everything. Are they even capable of understanding disagreement or being incorrect or
No. Do you know how mad they get it when they talk about negging? You know what negging is? It's playfully teasing a girl. And they're like, this is the worst abuse since Hitler. They have no concept of this.
And then you ask them for an example of negging, and they're just like, saying that my dress is ugly. And I'm like, no, that's an insult. That's not.
Yeah, you see what I mean? That's why I get so mad at you guys. I'm like, why are you engaging with these tards? Every single one of them is stupider than the last one.
There has been a 6-day argument on one of my threads, and the girl is still going. After 3 replies, she's mentally ill because no one who's saying keeps going.
You saw me. That I only have one engagement debate style, and you've seen it.
I
send him a
I
goatee.
opened one of my threads, and I saw a goatee, and I'm like, God damn it!
Well, yeah, because they don't want to learn. That's the point. Like all these arguments, what do people want? These debate bros. Debate me on the topic. Talk about this. What do they want? They don't want to like mutually share understanding. They don't want that.
Nope.
They're not trying to win over the audience because the audience is already like they're cheerleading the sides before they even start talking. So all this is like I'm bored and I need something to yell at and my husband's not home. Or if I yell, you can have that parasitic relationship with me so I can yell at them so you don't have to.
Yeah,
and both of these cases are like such a waste of time.
There's a lot of master debaters in this space.
Well, I think any debate, like 90%, if we ever go on to debate anybody, right, for some reason, 90% of the debate is going to be you redefining the term or defining the terms correctly that they misconstrued. That's all it's going to be. Like I like almost a year ago, I talked to Angela Knight because, and she was... she was mad at the red pill because what's his name, MLD was mean to her in a chat, and
I had a conversation with her too.
The whole conversation was that's not what red pill is, that's not what hypergamy is, that's not what this is. And then now with Rolo with the vasectomy thing, it's not like we have to defend him, but it's just we're not defending him, we're defending reason and like intelligence. Like, hey, vasectomy does not mean castration. It does not mean turning into
we're playing chess with a pigeon, man. The pigeon's just going to shit on the board and declare victory and strut around. Like there's no dealing with children.
That was a good try with her, Nuke, but she could never get past shaming language or sign language with you. It was all about sign language and her need to be right.
Actually, yeah, Nuke, you know what Like
what
it was
goes on
entertaining, but
today.
you know what it reminded me of? Do you ever go to the grocery store and you see that parent negotiating with their 3-year-old who's having a fucking temper tantrum over a candy bar or something? That's what all of these debate with red pill guys remind me of. You're sitting in there trying to negotiate with a toddler that just ain't having it.
Yeah.
No, it's not. That's not what hypergamy means. We'll buy you a toy when we get home. We're not doing it now. And the kid is just
feels like that.
screaming and kicking the guy who's like, I'm not allowed to drop kick your kid. Get him the F away from me.
Yeah, and like, you know, a lot of the people don't want to talk about the stuff we put out. They like Rolo never gets invited to the whatever podcast to talk about his book. It's to put him in front of someone else in order for some red meat. But like through red meat, you're not gonna get much out of you're not gonna get anything useful, right? Like I told the cognitive vigilance guys the other night, if it's not useful, it's not red pill. Simple.
Yeah.
If it's not useful, it's not red pill. So like they think that we say like we use the word dread or assume she's a slut, but don't obsess. They think we use those words to hurt people's feelings, but there's a reason we use that exact word. And a lot of the guys in the space, right, like they were writing long before they were doing YouTube, so they had to convey the stuff on a screen or in a book, and they had to capture eyes. Right now, when we say things, and there's people humans are inherently lazy, so they'll click on something, and then they'll, instead of like looking at the context of what we're saying, they just say, hey, hypergamy means I'll never get laid, so I'm gonna go black pill and become an incel. And it's just like, no, dude, hypergamy means like there's an alpha side and a beta side. It's alpha you want to be alpha with the side of beta, right? You can love your girl. You're allowed to love your woman. It's okay, but you can't lead with comfort. That's it. And it just seems like when we go talk to people, even in Twitter, when people come to us, right, and they say, well, aren't you all incels, or isn't hypergamy mean that you have to be above 6'2" or 6'1" to get a date? And we're like, no, you don't want this defined for you. You want to define it yourself because your ego is typed up in the definition of what a word is. So
on that, and Ryan, you said it in the private chat that these are people who just want to be lazy. Dude, the amount of time, because I'll write a number, and then all the Spurgs and autists will come in like, oh, it's hopeless, man. Especially on the guy side of things. I know we criticize the women here, but certainly on the guy side of things, they're just looking to obscure and construe what you said, not what you intended to say or what the words literally say. They're looking for a reason to not work. That's really what it is. So you could totally see that between, people, whatever, red pill, what I like to call virgin towel, where you're like, hey, look, girls like guys who are in shape. And yeah, you may be 5'9" or 5'8", but here are some things you could do, and you got to ask it. You give them the actual instructions, and they're like, "Game over, man! No more quarters. It's hopefully we're all going to die, man." And they're just like, "No, that's not." And I'll even grant a stoic, calculating MGTOW who's like, "Yeah, you know what? I looked at that and I did it, and I put in the end like, no, I'm not doing it. I'm going to go wander the desert and chill out and be more of a monk." Okay, fine. I appreciate it. But you can immediately see it, especially among the younger men. Like, there's no reason to try. You see, look at, oh my God, it's all right, fine. You completely miss. So people are going to be taken out of it what they want. But Ryan's right. They're all doing it as a means to excuse their in their own minds, their desire to be lazy, not just to simply avoid work.
So yeah, Thor, when you wrote your book, recently, did you have to be careful at all? Not in terms of being like, using wrong words, but like how you conveyed your message, because your message was for men. Like, were there certain words you picked or choose to like kind of have an effect on the reader that you did it? Were you very intentional with your wording?
Yeah, but he has a whole chapter on how words mean things, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah. I even break down the definition of the title of the book and why it's important and what's lost there. And then I go even further when we talk about a good example in the book of what words mean is the campaign that Brene Brown did with academics some 15 years ago. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Brene Brown, but she went on all the talk show, the Oprah circuits and everything some 15 years ago. She's a multimillionaire with her lectures, and she's a big TED talker about male vulnerability. The whole thing is about male vulnerability, and to better all relationships worldwide is to increase male vulnerability in relationships. I mean, her reach, because of her redefinition of vulnerability, which, by the way, is not well defined in any of her books at all. In fact, it's not defined. It is what she wants it to mean at the time they want it to mean something. And it's pretty crazy. You can look at different excerpts that I have of male vulnerability, and apparently it makes people feel really good to be vulnerable. You even got Chris Williamson now touting the wonders of male vulnerability, and all the intellectuals across the nation are saying male vulnerability. But back to the intersectional dynamics and the influence of languages, that's actually very harmful to relationships in the context that they have produced male vulnerability and what vulnerability is supposed to mean now. It's harmful. It is not helpful to people in relationships for the man to be crying and throwing a fit. It destroys their relationships. They refuse to acknowledge that. They say it's much, much better. But that's one way to change languages. But yeah, I go down into that. Words do mean things. And I actually put a lot of thought into it because I'm not a really good writer, but I want to convey a message that most people can read and it stays perennial. The definitions at least stay the same over some course of time. I mean, they probably won't, but at least for a while, it's understandable.
So was Jordan Peterson right in terms of the government compelling speech or social media platforms, whatever compelling speech, or is he just a crazy old kook?
In Canada, yeah, it's enshrined in law now. We just had our online bill where the CRTC now manages online content creation for Canadians.
Yeah,
it's not even like a conspiracy theory; it's policy at this point.
Yeah. I'm gonna read a couple super chats and then I'll ask another question. All right, so we got Thomas V with the $4.99 super chat. Control language, then you control thought, then you control actions. Also, welcome aboard, Noob. Thank you, Thomas V, for the $4.99. We have Noel with the 20. Was it pounds for the man in the arena? All right, thank you, sir. We got good old Nonstop Dre with the $2. Couch 69 420 says, "Men should wife up thy thoughts." Don't say that to Glenn; it'll trigger Glenn.
Damn this guy.
Oh, with another 20, John, I will come to America to trade. There you go, John. You got a new student.
Let's do it.
You got to call him Sensei John now.
Master
Renegade ADV, yeah, $10. Not a surprise that when a woman was CEO of YouTube, that is when all speech restrictions come in. Hey man, don't say it so loud. We're on YouTube right now. They'll hear us. And then $2. Nonstop Dre, new definition of short in 2024, being under 6'8". Yeah, but that's superficial pre-selection. Not really about language. It's more about conveying status among women. But that's a topic for another day. But okay, so essentially, I have a question for you guys, and I think it's a decent question. Do you guys believe that when you use words that have been affected by gynocentrism, whether it be vasectomy or hypergamy or red pill, in different contexts, do you think that when you're forced to use gynocentric words, does it force you to express a belief that's not yours?
No, because I'm a better master of the language than that. I can push it in my direction.
Or is that an IQ thing? Like, if you're stupid, you're gonna believe anything. You're gonna believe anything.
Are you talking about like using tact or?
I'm talking about like if I say the word partner, does that imply that I believe that men and women relationships are egalitarian and equal? Or am I just saying partner?
Yeah, I see.
I guess it requires me to like have to explain what I mean by using that word. You know, like when I think of partner, I think of gay couples. Okay, like
yeah, there's a level of like
they don't really use it. I mean,
internal validation. I think maybe I don't know, but like I make up words all the time that I use, and other people, no one else may know what I mean by using them. But like I don't subscribe just because somebody else. I don't think people own words. You can't own a word. If I want to use the word gay for cringe, I'm going to do that.
Good man.
Yeah.
I would also.
I use the Joe
bring it
Biden
back, John.
It works every
Gotta
time.
bring it back.
I have been. I say it all the time. That's really gay. My sons. I'm waiting for the phone call from their schools because they've adapted some of my language.
That's good. Good fatherhood. Yeah. So yeah, I guess we'll start with Cappy.
I was gonna
Cappy,
say one thing before one thing I would say, it's almost like they're shit testing you to like if someone uses the word partner, where now it's, do you want to, because they know what they're doing. They especially that word part. This is my partner. It's like you actually care more about your whatever gender politics more than you do the person you love. And ooh, isn't that edgy and cute? And at that point in time, you almost like, do I have to break this down now, interrupt the conversation that we're doing? Like you're in the middle of fixing something and somebody annoyed, like your kid punches you in the shoulder or something. Like, do I have time to respond to this right now? It's going to throw off the conversation.
Yep.
And so I think a lot of times they do it for a little bit of validation, but usually
frame control too.
Yeah, for like, but I don't have time to like, what you mean your wife? Like, but it's like, you know, people who dye their hair blue, they'll warn you about who they are. So you're kind of like, okay, fine. But it's unfortunately, there's so many people who are caught up in, ooh, look, my edgy takes on my politics gives me value. It's like libertarians telling you they're a libertarian when no one asked. That unfortunately has infiltrated the mainstream conversation with people. But you almost have to ignore it, like when your daughter, because I'm a vegetarian. Sure you are, sweetheart. That's great.
Yeah.
So I use specific. I call my girlfriend. I call her my woman or my chick. And I do that on purpose because I want to get a rise out of. I want to get a rise out of the blue hairs. I want them to fume, and then I take control of that frame. Now they're chasing me and trying to make me do whatever. And I'm like, no, this is my chick. And I tell her, like, because she said to me, like, I don't really like using the partner thing. When I say I'm your man, just tell people I'm your man. I have a man. Yeah, and that's what she calls me. I'm her man, and she's my chick or she's my woman.
Yeah, I have never heard my dad call my mom his partner, even in Spanish. Never once. In the 18 years I lived with my father, not once did I hear him call him his woman, and my mom was totally fine with that. So it's definitely not a better definition, but it is sneaky. It's very sneaky, and I think that's the way the women want to go about this, beating the red pill. It's not with like debates. I think it's just they want to change words around. So if they can get red pill to mean incel, guys that don't get laid, then a lot of people will affect the perception of the red pill, and we go from just a bunch of weird guys talking about on a forum talking about how to get laid to terrorists, something like that. So that's how dangerous language is. So okay, the order changed a little bit. So I asked Ryan, I asked you the same question. If you is using gynocentric words, is it forcing you to express a belief that's not your own? Like, let's say you go on a talk show. Go on a talk show, and they're like, "So Ryan, tell us more about the red pill and how you see your partner." You don't want to correct Piers Morgan or something, or maybe you do or something. But would your first thought be like, "This is the incorrect language. I got to correct it. Semantics matter," or is it like, "I'll just go with it, whatever. I'm not going to convince this guy."
Well, that's the beauty of being social, right? Do you first off, how annoying is it when you explain something and you make a typo, but they know what you were saying and then they start quibbling about the typo? It's a huge distraction.
Yeah.
So I hate being that autistic guy who's like, actually, I would prefer to say this or that. It's like, no, that's just showing off. Hey, I'm socially awkward and you were right about all the stuff you said about me. Like, if I get what they're saying, that's one thing. And would I use it? I mean, it's the same as anything. Do you cuss at work to your boss? No, unless you're working in the Navy.
I do.
Yeah, in the Navy.
Yeah. If you're working at Deloitte as a senior analyst, you're not sitting there, calling your boss the C-bomb.
Yeah.
So a lot of it is you have to understand the social context of what you're in. If you're on Piers Morgan and he throws out some gynocentric stuff, he's clearly trying to frame an argument in a certain way to make me look bad. So I just don't accept the framing. I'm not going to sit here and argue with him because he doesn't care about being right or getting correct. He just wants me to say something like when they made Rollo on Dr. Phil, like, apologize for Andrew Tate. He just avoided the framing. He's like, I'm not going to apologize for Andrew Tate. That's on him. And then he moved on and they had nothing else to talk to him about.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think, and this is the part that kind of, I don't want to say bothers me, but it annoys me about the guys who are all red-pilled, is that it's about social dynamics. It's learning how to be more socially suave, sexually attractive, navigate situations. And then they just turn the autism up to 12 because somebody said, no offense, somebody said partner once. They're like, actually, it's like, bro, shut up.
Yeah, they forgot the game and charm aspect of red pill.
Yeah,
They
like, and I'll
completely
use
forgot
this
that
example
part.
because I hate it so much. That erudite thing. Ali suggests you should talk to her. You'd like this. Never taking other people's advice again on this, by the way. And she sat there and she was running her mouth, and you're like, you know what? I'm not going to convince her. I even told her, I'm not here to debate you. I'm not here to convince you of anything. If you have a question, I'll answer it honestly. But I'm basically here to show that you can be red pilled and not tarted on the internet talking to a woman. And
Yeah,
I'd like
exactly.
to think I achieved that.
You did.
I think that's what most of us, as the, content creators here, if we ever get invited, or even in our daily lives, because like my barber asked me about this stuff, and his barbershop was named Testosterone Barbershop, and one day he was cutting my hair, and you're at a barbershop, you have to talk to your barber. You're not gonna just sit there silent. You talk about problems, fights, sporting events, whatever. And he's like, hey, do you know what the red pill is? And I'm just like, oh Jesus Christ, how do I deflect? How do I change the subject? How do I just change it to talk about bitches?
You write a
and all that
book and then you go, actually, and you pull out your. Nah.
right.
First of all, it's not a pill; it's a suppository.
First, exactly. So I think like what Ryan was saying is just like know what if they're coming in good faith, know what platform or what social environment you're in, right? If I'm at the barbershop with my barber and he's a cool guy, but like, yeah, dude, I heard about it. It's about women, right? It's about like hoes, right? And then we just go on to talk about his bitchy ex-wife, and then we'll move on, right? But if you're on a podcast and or a show or prime time like Rolo, you have to really step outside of that frame and be like, you're not putting me in. You're not gonna rope me in. Like, oh, red pill guys are incels. I'm like, cool. If that's what you think, like, I'm not an incel. I have talked to a woman in the past month. I am not. That's like the definition of incel. But yeah, it's very important. So Thor, same question. Do you believe that using gynocentric language displays that you agree in a sense?
Well, gynocentric language are basically social weapons to be used, and so when they're using them against them, you need to disarm them with language, take those weapons from them, and use them back against them in such a way that they don't even know you're using them against them. I guess a shorter way to say it is you got to judge whether it's useful to use the language. Taking partner, for example, in the social context that you're in, is it more useful to use that language and accept it so that you can actually make a more subtle point that's longer lasting and generates more thought? I would say you need to use it to your advantage. Or is it more useful to you to immediately correct them on the use of partner and say, no, partner is just something for business and it's something for gays and it's not to be used between men and women that are fully committed and married? That would be useless. In fact, it would be harmful to you in most contexts. So you kind of have to make that judgment. And it's always better to be able to move laterally in your conversations so that they're comfortable and you can get your point across. So sometimes you got to use the language, and it would be smart to do so.
Yeah, or else you'll get shut out completely, and then which would be the best. It would be cool if we were shut out completely and then they stopped talking about us, but then they will never stop talking about.
Keep sending goatsy, it'll happen.
One of the best things about this group, and particularly the things that Ryan puts out and Rolo, and I've noticed for a really long time, I hope to achieve this too, is planting seeds. You end up planting seeds, and later on down the line, some of these people would have went crazy with shaming language on you and sign language. They start singing your praises, but indirectly. And you can see that with some of the creators that are out there. They're definitely trying to imitate. And don't they say that's the sincerest form of flattery?
Yeah.
You're winning.
There's some people that will literally copy paste your stuff and then say that they come up with it. But at the same time,
I wasn't talking about that. I'm talking about those that resisted, but the seed was planted, and now there's something being grown.
They're coming around. They're starting to come around.
Right.
Oh, you mean like how Christians are now talking about fuck trophies for clout? Yeah, you're welcome.
Well, that was a beautiful redirect there, Ryan. And I love redirect.
Paul, what were you gonna say?
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, he's not here today, but Paul Benjamin, Rule Zero member, Apex Mindset, had a tweet about this whole conversation, because he often does use the word partner in his videos, and he was saying that he's like, yeah, I get it. I get words mean things. I know that men and women aren't equals and stuff like that. He goes, but I do try to make my content for a wider audience. And he goes, and everyone knows what partner means. So I tend to use it in my videos.
Yeah.
So
Also, isn't the whole point of Red Pill to like create your world and your reality around you? You know?
Yeah.
yeah,
So
this
if
whole
you-
mental
if you wanna-
point of
if you wanna
origin
use
thing
that word,
goes right over
use
people's
that
head.
word. If you want
You
to
know,
call
it's-
her, if you want to call your significant other Baba Booey, this is my Baba Booey. Like that's up to you. You have that. You're a free person. You can do that.
You know, it's interesting because the more difficult concept, or not difficult, but like there's some concepts and words that people will not touch. Like you can say, hey, the way that you pass this is to make yourself your own mental point of origin, and people are like, what's that? And it's like, well, you've been shit talking the Red Pill for like 20 tweets or 2 hours. Like this is like the core tenet. Like frame is everything, right? And they're like, what's frame? What's mental point of origin? And I'm just like, that makes sense. That makes sense that you don't know those words. Yet you've been arguing against people like Red Pill anime character for 20 tweets under mine, and now I have enough money to buy Tadashi a new collar because of that. So thanks. But like that's not like I think the language we use in the Red Pill, it's harsh. But like when your back's against the wall, you're divorced, you're on the edge, you're thinking about a permanent solution to your problems. Sometimes she's not yours, it's just your turn. It may like kind of it latches onto the kind of like the doomer side of you in that moment, but over time that phrase will turn into like a white pill or the colloquial white pill or a positive thing, right? When I was unplugging 10 years ago, and I saw the phrase "she's not yours, just your turn" on that essay by Rollo. I saw that, I'm like, yeah, screw these hoes. Like they broke my heart. I never have one. They're just objects. You just pass them around just like they passed me around, whatever. But then as I get older now, when I'm 34, I look at that, I'm just like, man, that's one of the most beautiful romantic phrases that I've ever heard. Because if you treat women like they could leave at any moment, you enjoy the little moments you have with them better. You kind of like appreciate life more because you understand the fickleness of women, but also you understand that like this could end at any moment. So why not enjoy it and not stress so much that they're gonna leave tomorrow or next week, or try to put a ring on it so they won't leave me or something. So it's just a lot of these phrases have to stay the same way, but the meaning that guys when they're black pill are just barely unplugging to when they fully understand this stuff and apply it changes. And that's what I noticed too with a lot. Like I didn't know mental point of origin. What does that mean? Does that mean that like I'm the king of the world and everyone has to listen to me all the time? No, it just means that like you just see it. You're the first thought in your head whenever something comes up in your life. But we can't keep changing words around to appease people because everyone's on a different journey, a different part of their journey in this stuff, right? Some people stay black pill angry forever. They throw $100 super chats on podcasts so they can yell at women or mute mics or something like that. And then some guys are just like, hey, I can't be mad forever. I really got to understand what they mean by she's not yours, it's just your turn. Let me sit down and think why this hasn't changed and why it's important. So, yeah.
Mhm.
That's my rant on that. I tend to get a
That's a
little
good rant. Definitely, that some of the stuff that's out there, especially what you just mentioned about she's not yours, it's just your turn. There's a much deeper life lesson there if you think about it long enough.
Yeah.
Much deeper one that will give you gratitude and appreciation for being in the moment wherever you're at in life. So, I mean, that's the kind of seeds that should be planted with
Outcome
that.
independence.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And you gotta earn outcome independence. You don't just wake up after you're getting your heart broken or divorced and be like, I don't care about anything anymore. No, you gotta just like go out, get rejected, get turned down by your employer, have friends
It's
betray
a really
you.
hard concept for a lot of people to understand because, like,
Yeah.
from a sports analogy, you're gonna do everything. You're gonna sacrifice everything. You sacrifice your life, sacrifice fun, good times, spending time with your friends to train and prepare and put yourself in a position to win. And then you do everything right and you lose, or the judges screw you and you get a draw, right?
Or you get
And then
injured right
what?
before the fight or something.
And then what? You
Yeah.
blow your brains out because you didn't get what you wanted, or you go through life black pilled and be like, well, what's the point of even training? What's the point of even working hard and doing anything if that's going to happen?
Yeah. And there is an inversion, like this sovereign bro person, whatever. He thinks that
Sovereign
the Red Pill's
grift.
giving up. Yeah, sovereign grift. He thinks that it's all about giving up, like we're giving up. And I'm like, dude, no. saying stuff like she's not yours.
We're crushing. From all I can
Yeah.
tell from what I'm observing from you guys, like you're crushing it. Your lives are awesome. You look
I'm more
very
involved.
happy.
Yeah, I'm more involved in my life.
You have success. You're helping other people. You from my perspective, everybody on this panel has been crushing it, absolutely crushing it. I feel like I need to do more because like you guys
Yeah, I
really
need to
are.
write a book. I need to write a book now.
Stuff out there. Like
Yeah.
you're getting great interaction and stuff with your post online. Your videos are doing good. You're crushing it.
It's a hard
So,
job. It's a hard
How,
job.
how are you
memes
giving up?
and
It sounds like
yelling
you
at
won. You guys are winning.
Yeah. And then the thing is too is just like for them they think that like the red pill is giving up, but it's like quite the opposite. It's like, dude, this is 100% 180 of what you think it is. It's actually it's just making a pact with yourself that you have to operate within reality, and you can only do the best you can do. Right? There's nothing you can't.
Nuke, are you really expecting this guy to have the self-awareness though? The one who's like, yeah, the sex doll is cool and with Christ, but the pocket pussy is where I draw the line.
Yeah.
Do you really think he's ever going to get it? Like he's paid to shit on red pill guys. That's his paycheck right now. I love the Bible. I love red pill guys. Let's go look at some tits and yell at some dumb chicks.
Yeah.
Like there's no getting through to that.
Yeah.
That's why I blocked him, man. Or he blocked me. I sent him the pocket pussy with like a Christ is King, join your local church. He didn't like that. He didn't like I didn't go to him because he never interacted with me. But I didn't want to that's basically his message. Tits are awesome. Join the church. It's like, here, saved you some trouble, sir.
You know, do you think that he's a typical Michael story?
Eventually. Isn't he still single?
Well, my thing is that he's probably enjoyed a lot of those women on those podcasts. They probably DM'd him or something.
Oh, dude, I would laugh so hard if he had like a Myron moment where they're like, yeah, blow me to get on my podcast. I would love to see that.
And he, he's friends with, he elevated in space, has a whole bunch of followers, and now he has a dating app. And, dating apps require money and investment, right? And the dating app will fail because you can't negotiate. Like, trad women are still attracted to dark triad traits in men. Like, it doesn't matter how God-pilled you are. Christian women still like, alpha. The
whole idea around religion is a way of harnessing or restraining our animal instincts and behaviors. They don't even acknowledge that. Like humans are programmed biologically to do certain things, and that's why religion was introduced so that we could. So when we see somebody across the room who has something we want, we don't go smash his face with a rock and take it. Right? Like when we see a hot girl, we don't just grab her, pin her, and rape her like chimpanzees do. Right? We created freaking religion. That was like the first government ploy to calm us the F down so we don't act like chimps all the time. Right? Fighting and biting faces off. I watched Chimp Empire the other day on one of the streams or whatever. And every time they come across a rival group, they try to kill each other. There's no oh, hey, man, you're kind of like us. Look what we can do with these sticks. No, it's like bash your face with a rock and we tear your testicles off. Like religion helped divert some of that biological leanings in order to make us more civilized and advance our societies. And they don't even acknowledge that. They don't acknowledge in any way that that's the purpose of those religions. That's why we had monogamous marriage and those things, is so that we didn't go with our natural biological animal instincts all the time.
Well, it's the same reason when the conversation about like, hey, well, why can't we just get conventionally married instead of involve the state, right? They don't want to bring that up because it would imply that there's bad things about women and the way they go about relationships, right? So they can't even touch that. Like they can't even acknowledge like, hey, women leave sometimes. But we already acknowledge that, and we're still dating women and married and have kids, some of us, and we're happy. So it's like a young guy is going to look at this. It's just like, wait, why am I going to get into this longhouse when I could just walk away from the longhouse and do me, and I still get my girl that I want?
It's better to live in the wild. It's better to live in the wild than to live in the longhouse.
Exactly.
Now, my chick, she was going to this church, and she sat down with the priest and asked him. She's like, why does someone need state permission? Why does the church need state permission? Why do you need a marriage certificate to get married in the church. And he did not have a good answer. He did not have an answer for it. He was like, well, you see, we're a community, and as a community, we have to like show what it was, just a blah, blah, blah word salad. And she's just like, yeah, I'm not going back to that church.
I think Andrew Wilson's the only one that's actually like, hey, like this is stupid to get married with the state. And they're coming for him. Like he's like fighting the good fight online. But yeah, it's
supposed
just
to be a separation of church and state. Why, in any way, would the church bow down to a knee and be like, "Oh well, hey, we can't marry you without the approval of the government"? That makes zero sense to me.
And you guys call Canadians bootlickers.
It shows that the church has no independence and is run by the state. There is no church anymore. To me, if the church bows down to the state, you're supposed to bow down to God only. So if you're listening to the state and like you're putting up pride flags and you're doing gay marriages and that's not what's in the Bible, like you're already bending a knee and you're no longer what you say you represent.
But that's too hard. So why not go after the red pill guys instead?
Yeah. but the red pill guys.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't surprise me as a non-Christian for many years and with ancestors that were very opposed to Christianity. It was all about supremacy all along and virtue signaling and making people live the way they wanted to live. Was there some benefit to curbing some of our natural instincts? Sure, there was. But they do it all through language. And today's episode's about language and how it influences it. It certainly does. And I'll say this about the red pill, because, we're always under attack, but the red pill and the usefulness that it offers is really interesting. And I've been around just long enough to see it in a lot of guys we talk to. It improves their lives and thereby all of the women's lives around them. Even though they don't like hearing this stuff, which I don't blame them. To them, it sounds really nasty and corny. And some of these Christo pill guys or the Christosphere guys, they don't like it either because the women get upset. Mm-hmm. It's actually better for them to understand the usefulness of the red pill because it actually improves their lives and the lives of their women improve thereby.
And they can be better for their faith, right? Like how can you be a good follower of God or whatever your higher powers or faith when you're not getting laid?
They can't see it. How can dread possibly be good for me? From Bill's perspective.
How is any man
really is?
How's any man effective if he can't get laid? Have you met guys that don't get laid? They're weirdos.
I know.
Yeah, but I don't get. I shouldn't have to convince somebody to live a good life.
Yeah,
that's the part that I had to take a step back and ask, why am I trying so hard to make this guy not a loser when he's fighting me every step of the way? And then I realized, fuck him. You know what I mean? Fuck him. These guys who we call black pill doomers and they're basically stealing a bunch of our time that we could be talking about ways to get laid. All these Christ pill guys are like, I'm willing to get run into the meat grinder. And we're sitting here trying to convince them against their own, better sense. Like, hey, you don't have to die. And you're like, no, I'm good, fam. At this point, I kind of want everybody to go Steven Crowder. You know what? Accelerationist, full sexual accelerationist. Marry that woman, do all the chores, retire her, give her everything. Give her your balls. Go get divorced so I can have a Steven Crowder moment to make an ad for my podcast to teach guys who give a shit.
Yeah.
Well, and
shouldn't be this hard to convince a guy not to be a cautionary tale. It really should.
Here we are.
The groundwork is being laid. Ryan, you bring up something interesting. The groundwork, all these younger people, even the Christian TradCon type of people, they're so desperate to become internet influencer, make their money doing their little internet thing. And, oh, look, it's edgy, it's saucy. We have a great relationship in Christ, or we're the perfect couple. They are laying the groundwork for so many future failures in marriage. And these things are going to blow up like Destiny's Marriage. And we're going to have more empirical. We just have to sit and wait. All we got to do is step aside, let this train go off the train tracks. Because we'll be like, yeah, hey, about that whole marriage thing. And you would, how's that working now? But I think, maybe we just go on lunch break. Let them do their thing. They know better. They're a 28-year-old Christian couple. They know what they're fucking doing. And then all of a sudden, oh my God, does that illegal alien have a slightly more swarthy dick than you do? Oh, she ran off. And then we're just going to sit there with our popcorn and just, we just have to be there and point it out when it happens.
If only somebody would have warned them. If only something could have been done. If only.
All right. Well, I'm gonna read these 4 super chats, and then we'll get our final thoughts, and I'll let everyone go for the day. So let's see. We got Nico C. with the $5 super chat. But what does it all this have to do with loser guys manning up and being kind and sensitive and understanding the nuances of these hoes? I don't know, but if you know, buy my course and sign up to my dating app and you'll get your trad wife, sir. Your trad wife, sir. Basically, that's what the dating app is. But yeah. Nonstop Dre with the $2. Cappy likes his women like cars, cheap and used and beat up. Is that
Jesus.
true, Cappy? You have the greatest.
That's Dre, dude. Dre comes up with the darkest shit, man. He's got some. You gotta read it in your mind first before you read it out loud. Sometimes you're gonna be like, God, Dre, Jesus.
Unrealized thoughts with the $5. Nice to see you, sir. Those who make content solely to discount RP become the very incels or losers they talk about. Most hear the lessons, but few understand and apply. Yeah, it's what does Rolo say? It's triage for like we're just saving whatever bodies we can. If your legs and arms are blown off, we're probably not gonna go to you first. We're probably gonna go to the guy that's just bleeding out a little bit. That's a very dark thing to say, but you guys get it. And then we have Nonstop Dre again. I read it in my mind this time, Cappy. Cappy 666 states men should chop off their balls. the vasectomy telephone game. I love it. And we got another one. Nonstop Dre, $2. Is the dating app called Pet Wallet? Oh my god. And we got another $5. Capillations 420 states getting the girls does requires the discipline to hit the gym and stop being a limp-wristed millennial. Okay, that's wholesome. There you go, Cappy. There's something wholesome. So okay, guys, it was a great show. It's just something that that is always interested in me in the way we talk and all that stuff. Because like I come from a very kind of like not traditional but very conventional male background. My dad was very conventionally masculine, and he never talked about my mom with these things, like with these words, or when my dad would complain to me about my mom, like, hey, your mother's doing these things, he would never say these words. But now we have all these words to describe different phenomena in the dating scene and all that stuff. So thanks you guys for talking about this. And just final thoughts. We'll start with you, Thor. Final thoughts. What you got what are you working on? And we'll go from there.
Yeah, I'm just going to drop a link to my book, Dominant Masculine Presence, in the chat. Thanks, guys. Appreciate that patronage there. Looks like we're picking up some sales, so appreciate that. It definitely helps me. And of course, in the next half hour, come watch us on the DragonShip. Today, Mike Steele is going to be hosting, and he's going to talk about betatization. Of course, I know you guys love that. How we all get betatized by the women in our lives.
And language.
Of course, they use what? Language.
Yeah.
Language is their weapon of choice.
All right. Thank you, Thor. Cappy, the book just dropped. I'm about to start reading it tomorrow because I got to finish your other one, and then I'll start reading everyone else's books. But I'm getting there.
Yeah.
What you got.
Well, there's no rush. Did you get the audio?
The audio for Curse of the High IQ, yes. Because I'm too high IQ to read.
The A World Without Men. Did you get the audio for that?
No, I got paperback.
Okay, yeah. Well, anyway, if you all get audio for A World Without Men, you really ought to download the PowerPoint addendum. Otherwise, the charts, because you can't have charts in that. Otherwise, that dropped. That's the relatively new thing. More importantly than that, I have learned to remove a background on an image. So if you thought that my thumbnail jujitsu was pretty awesome beforehand, you just wait to see what's coming up now, man. I got a background and a person removed, and there's a lady girl with little cat lingerie on. I'm fucking, man, you look out. I got some dope Photoshop skills. And that I'll be uploading to my YouTube. You don't even have to watch the video. Just look at my awesome thumbnails on my YouTube channel. That's the excitement I have going on today.
All right. Ryan, how much do you love your book right now on a scale of 0
I'm just
to
tired
100?
of reading it. You don't understand, man. So when you write it, I had to do 3 drafts. So I've written that book 3 times already. And then I have to read it through on the 3rd edit and read it through on the 2nd edit. Then I hand it off to the editor, and then he sends it back. I got to redo all those changes, and every time I make changes, read it through again. So that's like 4 readings. And then you got to do a final read, and you keep doing that until you notice errors until it's finished. And even then, I got another like 10 errors to fix on there. And then the audiobook. I have to read the thing, and it takes I have to read it like 6 times. For every 6 minutes of reading out loud, you get a minute of audio. And then I have to master it. And then I have to listen to it again. Then I have to listen to it again. I've read and listened to that book a dozen times, and I'm fucking tired of it. You guys will love it. You will love it. It's not like I'm great and I'm wonderful. It's like this is 10 years of notes. This is the equivalent of research put into an easy to digest narrative structure. And you're going to love it. If you've liked Frame, consider this. If you want to talk about the scope of it, in Dread, the very first part is a concept of a scoreboard. The idea of a guy going from in his wife's frame to getting out of her frame, building his own frame, and then pulling his wife into his frame. The entirety of Frame is within the second part of that first 3 elements. Now that's the first of 6 distinct concepts in there. So it's a beast of a book. There is a lot of information. I don't handhold, but it's great. And it's anything and everything we've ever talked about in the Red Pill is essentially there, with the exception of Lamborghinis.
Yeah.
And Bugatti.
And if I never see it again, it'll be too soon.
Yeah, guys, Ryan is a great author. Check out his stuff. There's remember, if it's not useful, it's not Red Pill. So everybody's books here and content is all useful, right? We tend to do the 10,000 yard stare or whatever you call it sometimes, but we always bring it home to how is this going to benefit you. So let me get this super chat. We'll move on to Paul. Rusty Field for the $4.99. As a Christian myself, I have to say Christians and churches are just out of touch with reality and on every topic. Don't take them too seriously. Well, it's the internet. Anyone can say anything and feel good about themselves, but the real world is the real world, and they have to go back to the real world eventually. So, yeah, thank you for that $4.99, Paul. The books are flying off the shelves, man.
Yeah, well, yeah, the autographed editions, I'm out of stock again. It's a good problem to have. You can still get them on Amazon though. It's available in Audible. If you guys didn't know, it's available in Audible. Kindle edition, paperback, hardcover, and special edition. If you guys go check out Aaron Clary's channel, he recently did a review of it. He gave it at least a 4-star review. So he knocked off 1 star because he doesn't like Law of Attraction, but that's okay. I didn't expect it.
Hey, man, if you just think there'll be a redhead bouncing on your dick, she'll show up in your subconscious, man.
Yeah.
Is that Shaggy from Scooby-Doo?
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of. Zoink, Scoob. He's got more of that Casey Kasem voice.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Speaking of language, these guys are all good writers. I have to get through their books eventually. I'm reading about coding right now, and I got this stuff. So
there's a lot of books. There's a lot of books.
There's a lot of books, but they're all worth your time, guys. And
I also wanted to mention too.
Beer Club.
Well, not Beer Club. I have 3 modules recorded for my new dating course. For you guys that live in flyover country, I'm calling it No Cold Approach in the Cow Pasture, and I'm hoping to knock out the last 6 modules tomorrow. It's going to be pretty goddamn in depth. It's going to tell you how to optimize your dating apps, because out here there really is no great way to meet people organically in person. So you have to optimize your dating apps, but I'm also going to drop some knowledge on how to use Facebook and Instagram to source chicks. And it's actually pretty revolutionary. So you guys will like that. And then tune into the podcast Monday. My guest is Desiree Simone. She's the host of the Growth on the Rocks podcast. And you guys can watch how a red pill guy interacts with a woman in a non-retarded way. So that should be fun.
How novel.
All right. So guys, thank you.
What about Ryan?
Chat.
Did we get Ryan?
We did get Ryan. Yeah.
Oh, Ryan,
I'm done running my mouth.
I apologize. Ryan, when is your audio coming out? Because I don't want to actually read your book.
It's out.
Yeah, it came
Your
out.
audio's out?
Yeah, it came out last week, Tuesday.
All right.
Rusted, better than Rolo. First time through the ACX process. I don't have to redo it 3 times like him.
I'm terrified. I am going to start writing soon, and I'm just terrified. It looks like a lot.
You
of
won't
work.
have time to think. You'll be too busy worrying about the technical aspects.
Don't be like these 2 guys who waste it. Just have someone else read it.
Get Mike Steele to read it. Get Mike Steele.
Oh
to read it.
yeah.
Or
In an Optimus Prime voice. Yeah.
I'll get one of you guys to write the foreword and stuff, and then I'll shine me for the rest of the book. But all right, well, guys, speaking of books, language very important when it comes to deciphering and who's in good faith, who's in bad faith. Don't be a spurg in real life. If someone brings up red pill to you, whether you're at a salsa night or at work, just kind of say, "Oh, I never heard of that. Like, what's it about?" Like, don't get into the word. Like, keep the shit to yourself. if you're discussing, don't waste time arguing with people online that do not want to understand the definitions that we have, or the mental models or the phrases. Waste of time because they're not there. Let me get the super chat and then we'll get out of here. Nonstop Dre 360, $2 super chat. Don't forget to donate Cappy's book to libraries. God damn it, that's so good. All right, guys. No more super chats. We're leaving. So thank you guys. Link tree's in the chat. You guys know where to find me. And thank you. And that's all I have. Have a good one, guys.